Yo, episode 6 was not that bad, actually. I'm here to say that I have no problems with this episode as well. I don't know what's going on, but it seems like, at least to end the season, everything's going pretty smoothly. This episode was pretty much, it was a flashback, but it was pretty much deep dive into the actual story of what goes on between Ellie and Joel, kind of dating back all the way to when they first got to Jackson, all the way into the points that you see in the beginning of the season, beginning of the game, however you want to look at it. But it shows basically the kind of, I don't want to say breakdown of their relationship, but just the intricacies and everything that happens with them, to the point where you see them, they're kind of obviously not as close. I'm trying to think of a word, but you see the relationship is not as strong as, it previously was in the first season, whatever history you have with the show or game or whatever. But this episode was definitely just a breakdown of that, showing what happened, using her birthdays as a tell. And this is, if you played the game, one of the best parts of the game, where they flash back and Joel takes Ellie to the museum for her birthday, and they have the space launching scene, and you could just see just how happy Ellie was, and the emotion that Joel had, how much it meant to him. And that's one of the best scenes in the game, so it's cool to see them recreate that for the show. And then subsequently, as you see as the years go on, you get to see Ellie grow up and their relationship evolve in that way. You have a chance to see Ellie grow up. You have a chance to see Joel grow up in some ways, and you just see it take it on from there. And then it gets to the part where, which they changed this up for the show, but it gets to that part where Ellie is questioning everything at this point. Why is she here? What is her purpose? Everything. It gets to that point where Ellie really does want to question Joel again. Here's where things get interesting, though, because the show takes a little spin, like a little curve, and you get to this point where you're meeting up with Eugene. Well, Joel was taking Ellie on her first patrol. They end up running into Eugene, who isn't in the game. Well, at least like as a figure, you see him through like notes. But it gets to a point where, they see Eugene is bitten, and Joel and Ellie are contemplating whether they should take him back, because he wants to go back and see his wife, and Ellie obviously wants him to go back and have that final say. Joel's obviously not with it, because this is how things go. She just on her first patrol, like, she not understanding. You gotta weigh the emotions and reality and all that. So it just gets to one of those points, and it ends up intercepting with how Ellie ends up feeling, because things happen, and Ellie's emotions overload, and you start to see the feeling that she had harbored up this entire time spill out in that moment, and you start to see it play out later on. They actually bring it around, because at the beginning of the episode, I forgot to mention this, there's a scene that flashes back even further to explain the relationship that Joel had, and Tommy for that matter, with their dad. And it all circles back around to how Joel is, quote unquote, parenting Ellie. So with all that being said, man, great episode. I was pissed off at first because of the way, when you look at the episode and the way it kind of goes towards the end of it, when they're starting to kind of, bring things together. I was getting pissed because I thought that they changed a very, not critical story point, but the way that it was told. I thought that they was changing a point, and it just was not going to make sense. And it ended up kind of working itself all the way back to the same point, I guess, at the end. So I honestly, I don't even have a problem with it, but I was definitely getting mad in the moment. But that's cool. I like the way that they did the adaptation in this episode, and it should remind somebody of that the first season, the episode with Bill. Yeah, this feels like that, like as far as the emotion and everything, and how just, I don't want to say deep of episode, but just how strong the episode was emotionally. I feel like it could tug on your heartstrings if you was, sitting there trying to, really be locked in. Again, if you were really invested, you know, especially if you haven't seen it, this was one of those episodes that might get you. So hey, I just want to, you know what I'm saying, give them props for another cool episode this week. I have no issues with this week as well. And look, next week is the big dog episode. We're going to see what happens at the theater. And, you know, y'all know what goes down. I don't know if they're going to change it. I don't know if they got anything planned. You know, like I said, there was slight changes in this one. So I don't know if that's planned for this one. And I mean, hey, look, you know, we got to wait and see. But, you know, as you can tell, when it does happen, I'll be here to let you know how I feel about this shit. So that's gonna be that. I appreciate y'all for tuning in. Like I said, another short video this week, but look, hey, I'm not mad at it. I'm not mad at it. So y'all tell me how y'all feel about the episode, and y'all let y'all comments down below be known. I'm kind of scrambling here. Let me go ahead and end this video. Look, man, I'm gonna go ahead and let that be that. I'm gonna catch y'all next time. Y'all be safe.